actually, I'm coming today live from US Bank Stadium, the site where the mass events will be and our worship will be. And you can see that they have painted pretty much the building in LWML colors in honor of our event. So very exciting to see so much purple in this place. We're excited today to talk about planning and what does planning look like, specifically looking at how do you create a year calendar. And what we wanted to do is we wanted to bring in experts who do this and are part of this and are leading groups. And so I'm going to give them a chance to introduce themselves. And Cassie, why don't we start with you?
Sure. My name is Cassie Moore. I'm a director of Christian education at Our Savior in St. Petersburg, Florida, which is a multi-site church and school. So we have 2 church sites and 2 school locations. I'm also a writer and an author, so I do a lot of writing for the LCMS, but love working with youth. I oversee kids and youth ministry. My husband is a pastor. We have 2 dogs, and I'm actually right in the middle of vacation Bible school right now. So I'm hoping I do not look quite as tired as I feel.
Excellent. Hey, Josh, let's go to you.
Yeah, my name is Josh Hoffman. I serve as the Director of Christian Education at St. John's Lutheran in Norwood, Young, America. I've been here for 5.5 years. I'm married. My wife is a first grade school teacher. We have 3 kids, 7, 4, and 1. So we just started summer this week. So we're going to parks and baseball games and eating ice cream, all that fun stuff. This will be my 5th youth gathering already as a leader, which just seems crazy. But it's been a lot of fun. Youth gathering has meant a lot to me. I've been able to serve in Oklahoma for a couple years, so I got to bring that group there twice, and then twice already. This will be the 3rd time here with the kids in Minnesota. So be a short trip this year, but we're still looking forward to it.
Excellent. And Ann, do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Hi, I'm Ann Franklin. I live in Denver, Colorado. I'm a member at Our Father Lutheran and Centennial. I am not a church worker, although I love Jesus. I'm a parent volunteer, and this will be my 3rd gathering that I will be coordinating our group from Our Father.
Excellent, excellent. Well, we are so thrilled to have you guys here and to give us your thoughts and your opinions and your expertise. And we know that there are a lot of people. In fact, one of the things that's is so amazing to me is that over 80% of the adults who come to the gathering are volunteer leaders. And so they're not full time. They don't think about this every day, but they're giving up their time and their vacation to have this incredible experience with their kids. And that for us, it's such an honoring thing. Part of what we want to do is to equip and to make it as easy as possible, and to create not just a great experience, but our heart is always to go back and to have great youth ministries back. So how can we help you do better youth ministry even back home? And so that's a big kind of funnel that we have within this. Now, I know that there are some of us who are natural planners and we love this and we look forward to this, and some who hate this and can't stand this and don't want to even think about this, and just give me a paper so I can copy it and do it. So we know there are people all over the place, and this will give you a chance to think a little differently, to hear some different perspectives. What I really want to encourage for all those who are listening to this live, 2 things. If you could just go into the chat box and type your name and where you're from, where you're serving, maybe just a sentence or 2 about yourself, that would be great. And we really encourage you this is for you. So as we go along, if you have questions or thoughts or need further, you want something a little bit more or expound on something, please enter that in the chat box, and we would love to get to that. So use that. This is for you. But I want to start with a little bit of a simple question. And just when we start thinking about planning in the youth gathering. So in creating an overall plan, tell us what are the must-have events for you? And thinking from, we're really looking about a year-out plan. When you're thinking about that, and Joshua, we'll start with you. What are the things you have to have in your year plan?
One of the first things I've seen, and actually I've had a unique opportunity. Twice I had less than a year to get ready for a youth gathering. When I came here and took the call to St. John's, I had 5 months. And when I did my internship in Oklahoma, I had 11 months. So anyone feeling overwhelmed, you got plenty of time. The biggest thing those two experiences made me do is focus on relationships. Fundraising is important. That needs to be a necessary thing, but I really want the kids to feel comfortable. Because what I've seen is you always seem to have that kid who's best friends with that one other person. Well, what happens if they get in a fight the second night because they're tired and they haven't slept? That's going to happen. So the biggest thing I do is just team building. One thing that we put into our youth gathering is what I call youth gathering boot camp. It's basically a training thing we do a month or two before the youth gathering. We have all our kids. I give them a list of things they have to pack in a suitcase. So it's kind of rule following right away. They get there, they meet, and then I make them go to McDonald's or one of the restaurants. They have to walk with their suitcase through our town to go and eat food. And they've been given specific instructions. You got 45 minutes to eat. You have to be back here. So, I mean, it's immediately their responsibility. I think it's the other thing that's funny is they get embarrassed together. I think that's something that I always try to incorporate, because if you're going somewhere with a week, that's your family for that week. You got to be able to laugh. You got to be able to cry. You got to be able to be embarrassed with each other. So that's something we do. Since we've always flown, I've been spoiled. All my groups have wanted to fly except this time, since we're an hour away. We have like a TSA training thing. That's part of our boot camp. So the kids have to like pack certain things, measure out how many ounces you could take on the plane. I've had kids forget clothes. So I always make that a part of it. Like you got to pack certain things in your suitcase, put it back. So yeah, so that's been something that's been super fun. I've done that each time. I incorporate our adult leaders into the planning, so they kind of feel like devious with me, that we can really kind of get these kids out of their comfort zone. And the kids all shake their heads when we're doing it. And then after, they're like, wow, that was so much fun, because they get to know the other kids in their group. It's not just about that one friend, because they can't rely on that one friend to have a good time. So that's the biggest thing, just building those relationships with the adult leaders and the kids. That's fundraising needs to happen, but that's been the most important thing in those two experiences that I had such a short time.
I think it's also really important to involve the parents, so that the kids know that the parents know what's happening, and that the parents feel like they are part of this, that they are sending their kids on this amazing week, but it's for them as well. And so the parents, participate in meetings, in Bible study. Huge. I completely agree with Josh. The relationship piece is essential.
You guys shared such great things, and I'm totally on board with that. One of the things that we really try to do, especially leading up to the gathering, is focus a lot on service. We have this fun stuff. We do the fundraisers. We do a lot of things where our kids are serving the church, that people see them visibly doing something. But we also we get that mindset of, we're here to have a great time, to praise God, to worship, to experience community, all these wonderful things, but we're also here to serve. And we've just seen that attitude. It's incredible when we focus on service. I know at the last gathering, I have kind of an interesting role, because I'm one of the National Youth Gathering planners. So this has been the third time that I've been planning the National Youth Gathering, and I'm not with my youth group the whole time. So I have a leadership team that handles my youth group while I'm on the floor at the youth gathering. So this last gathering in New Orleans, I know I was waiting to meet up with my group a few times at the mass event, saying like, where are they? Where are they? They should have been here by now. None of them are here. And I came to find out that they're actually stopping every night after dinner, and the kids were pooling their money together, and they were going out to find people on the street to share their meals with them. And a few times they were late because they were sitting there praying with them and, sharing their gathering Bibles with them. So those are the kind of attitudes that, as leaders, we get to have a front row seat in sort of cultivating what our kids are going to experience and how they go in, what kind of mindset they have. And it's a great thing. It's an exciting part of that planning process.
Oh, that's awesome. It's great. So think about, we start thinking about a year, right? We're kind of at that point in the gathering process where some people are, I know some of you thought about this right after the last gathering and you've got it in your brain, but others, for the majority, I think are really starting to think, hey, registration materials are starting to get out. I got to start getting my groups together and those kind of things. What do you guys do as kind of a promo? How do you start thinking about adults and the adults, which adults you want to take or bring? Also, how do you start having conversations with kids, or what do you do to kind of promote and get people on board as we kind of start that plan? Let's, Ann, do you want to start with you?
Sure. First of all, I want to say, if you haven't done anything yet, it's totally okay. I have not done much to get ready for 2019, and I'm still feeling completely good. There's plenty of time. So if you feel like you're behind the eight ball, you're really not. Want to give that reassurance to, to everybody. We have a really unique situation at our church that most often we have more adults that want to attend than we can send. And so we reach out to current youth leaders. We have middle school mentors and high school mentors, and we reach out to them asking if they're at all interested. Then we move into kind of a formal application process, just because we have more adults and we have to weed it out objectively. So we kind of do that process. As far as asking or getting the kids interested, we will typically wait until school starts, which in Colorado is in August. And we do a confirmation orientation, and then we do a high school first night with the parents type of a thing. So we reach out to the current 8th graders and tell them that they will be eligible to attend the gathering. We do that at confirmation orientation. And then for the kids in high school, we reach out to them pretty much on the first night of Wednesday night that we do our youth group. So we have them express interest at that time, and then we move into applications in the early fall. So we're kind of a few months out yet.
Yeah, and I would say we're also we usually start in the fall, so we also have a whole lot. One of the things that I really focus on is I try to make it very personal. You know, the gathering meant a lot to me when I was a student participant. So I go around with my phone all the time, and even to our 4th and 5th graders, I look at them as, you know, you're going to be going in a few years. So I'll pull up my phone, I'll show them videos and pictures, you know, hey, these are my friends that are working on the gathering team, you know, hey, this is going to be great. Just wait till you can go on this when you're older. So we sort of foster that from an early age, you know, hey, look forward to this event. It's something special. It's something that you get to be involved in. And, you know, it's just the sheer scale of seeing how many other people are there praising God. It's just incredible.
Yeah, I think a big thing is just being able to show people that it's an opportunity. Me personally, as a kid, I wasted my opportunity at the youth gathering. I was focused on very different things. So as a leader, I really want the kids to know what it is. A big part of that is just education, you know, showing them pictures from the past, showing them videos. And really what I try to do is I get the kids who went on it to really encourage, like get sound bites from them. What did they enjoy? You know, and it's so fun to hear the things they say and how their friends react. Like, wow, yeah, we got to praise God with 27,000 other people in a mass event. I mean, or we got to serve with this group from Louisiana last time, and we built this park. And so really just to get the kids to hear from each other, you know, and really get some of our kids that are leaders, I encourage them, hey, talk to your friends, let them know what this is about. It's just, that's a huge component, is just educating them. So what is the youth gathering? Why should I go? Because there's a lot of things kids can be involved with. So.
Yeah, I think the testimonial piece is huge. Having kids talk to their peers is often much more impactful than an adult sharing with them.
Yeah, great stuff. And one of the things I want to do, and Scott had a great comment in the chat box too. And so think about this as leaders, and we have several of you on the chat today. If you do things of saying, hey, this is what we found or the best experience, please put that in the chat, because we feel this is a learning community in that. So Scott had a great point in that they do an application process for their adults, because some adults, and I'm guessing you may have had that experience, some adults go for maybe different reasons than what's best for the youth group in there. And so he does an application process to kind of help weed and to make sure that the right adults are on. Because I think a lot of us have had the experience where you maybe have had an adult that's not there for the right reason, and adds to the experience of the gathering in maybe some different ways than we would like, or some challenges. So great process there. In that box, think about, for any of you that are here, to talk about your best way of recruiting kids or encouraging kids, especially those who have no idea or haven't been there. If you've got ideas, put those in the chat box. Let's talk a little bit about this. We start talking about timeline, right? We've got, Congregation's about to get registration information coming into July, and then we've got August, September, and then really that registration process gets going in October. Tell us how you guys handle your kids as far as getting stuff in, the timelines that you use, time frames. Maybe even talk about maybe some of the obstacles you have in a day that's saturated with information, and those who honor deadlines and those who don't. If you talk a little bit about that. And Cassie, do you want to start with this one?
Sure. Boy, this is a great topic that I'm sure we all have opinions on. We live in a distracted world. I constantly am sending information out in a million different ways, social media and printed, bulletins and all sorts of stuff. And I'll still have people constantly saying, "Oh, I didn't see that anywhere," which it's just, it's a sign of the world we live in, a sign of the times. We're bombarded all the time. My big piece of advice would just be to assume people are going to blow right through your deadlines. So set your deadlines early. I have had times where people have been trying to turn in paperwork like weeks after it was due, sign up for things weeks after registration closed, after it's been pulled offline for 2 months, they're trying to register. So as much as you can communicate, whatever that is in your culture, your community, figure out how to do that. We came up a couple years ago with a youth Instagram, and we just bombard that thing all the time. And we'll tell kids, like, tell your parents this. Hey, parents, show your kids what's going on here. Show them the phone physically so they can see. So it's a challenge. Just know it's a challenge for all of us. Every one of us is facing the same challenge, I think.
We have a remind group text for our middle school youth and our high school youth, and the parents can sign up for that too. So that's a good way that they send reminders about weekly things and about deadlines and everything. But I agree. We had, at the last gathering, we had people turning in health forms at the airport. So I totally can relate to blowing through the deadlines. We hand out an actual paper timeline that, with payment dates, more logistical types of things, with payment dates, with volunteer opportunities, with fundraising ideas. I think our biggest obstacle is finances. I think kids think that they can't go to the gathering if they can't afford it. And so we try to offset about half of the cost for our kids through fundraising and donations and different things. So as far as obstacles, though, I think that is the case. I think it's super important also to have an adult, whether it's the primary leader or another leader, who is super organized to keep track of paperwork on like a paper ledger. Because then it can be passed along and everybody can know what's happening. But even if you as an adult leader are not organized, I think you need to have somebody on your team that is, to help coordinate all this.
Mm-hmm. I think the big word I use is just expectations. Like, I think it's a good way to show responsibility. And, we kind of have a soft group now. We have our kids, like 24 kids signed up. But I know we're going to have other kids that are coming into our youth group, that are joining our church, that are moving in. So for them, it's just going to mean, for us, the logistics is just this group has had to pay this amount because they've already been part of our fundraising. The next group coming in later is going to have to pay a little bit higher amount because they missed out on that initial fundraising. Now for us, I wouldn't normally do that just because that means a huge amount. But since we're so close to Minnesota this year, I'm working things a little bit differently. But normally I just set all those deadlines way before I'm needing any of them. So then when October comes, when I actually need to send out that registration on that first day I've already have everything. Like, the people think it's almost redundant, but I'm like, hey, I'd rather have had this stuff and be sitting on it for a long time, because that was not something I was really good at when I started ministry, was the organizational piece. And that was just something I'm like, nope, for this youth gathering needs to be different. Like, to really have that big schedule, this is a hard deadline. Just say, okay, I'm not these earlier ones, but there's no option like this. I want to have everything in October because of this. If you guys want a close hotel, if you want to serve an event, if you want some of those things that are important to you, it's got to be fair to the group that we have everyone on board right away. And, that's just kind of coming on strong in the beginning. That's not really like when I get to, if you saw me at the youth gathering, you'd be like, this guy isn't that like hard with his kids. And it's like, no, because we were in the walk-up process. Like I seemed, because you have to be, you want to make sure the kids are going for the right reason. They're excited about it. They know that there's some accountability that's put in there, because you're going to be asked to be accountable that whole week away from parents and people. And, it's not New Orleans this time, but you can have some fun in Minneapolis too. So
I would say also maybe a simple thing I started doing a few years ago for all of our trips, I color code every paper that I give out. So all of the blue papers, for instance, are informational. All of the yellow papers need to get signed, filled out, turned back to me. And it makes a really easy way for me to just say, hey, don't forget all of your yellow papers. There are 6 of them. They all need to come back to me by October 15th. So that's just a simple tip that maybe could help somebody.
I love that. I think that's what's so great about this thing. I would never thought about the color coded. That's fantastic stuff.
I see we have a comment here from Nick Moss. If you're colorblind, you should be able to see some colors, I hope. If not, that's why you need a great team of people around you that can support you, right, Nick?
That's so true. That's the beauty of this thing. And I would say this for those, just repeating, once again, for those that aren't detail oriented, you have plenty of people in your congregation who are going on this and use their gift set. That's a great aspect to that. I was not that guy, so I always brought someone in to do that. Nick also talked about, I want to bring his chat back into that. He also talked about that they use money as an incentive. So non-refundables to kind of keep people moving. And once again, you hear several comments about make sure you give your lead week to 2 weeks ahead of time, so that you kind of go back to things. Jessica uses a Remind app during the gathering, and it worked great for them in 2006, or Google Docs. Nick uses lots of different things. So think about money is definitely a motivator in this day and age. So that's a good thing. And there's a lot of different apps that will help you with that. I want to go back to Judy's got a great question here and throw this back to the group. She says this, going back to the kind of the adult leaders, how do you, or can you suggest how to handle chaperones that assume that because they've gone before that they will go again? Also, when they threaten to pull their student if they can't chaperone again.
Oh, gosh.
What do you do in something like that?
I commented to Judy back. I think this is part of that application process, and just saying that not everyone's going to get to go, and really that this is a great opportunity, and I've had that too in the past where I've served, is that part of the application process is, have you gone before, and letting people know right from the beginning to say, we want everyone to be able to experience this at least once, and I always say, as a leader, I feel spoiled because I get to go multiple times, and they just kind of laugh at me like, until they've seen it, they see how much people can get out of it. So that's part of the process. I say, like, there's the dynamic of having male and female chaperones. Like, you are creating a team that's going. So I really make people know there's no guarantee everyone, we can't take everyone. I always encourage, for our church, we take the most we can bring for adults. I've always done that because I feel that gives them an opportunity to experience it, and also like just to be a part of it, and to be their leadership then can continue on through the church. So it's not just about me, the DCE, who's helping, but these kids get these great connections with all these other parents too. So that's just kind of, I've walked that road. It's not always fun.
Our application process is a blind one, meaning that their name is nowhere on the application. And so we're looking only at, what we feel are the important qualifications. Also, we want the adults who are currently involved with our youth to, I wouldn't say have first priority to go, but they have the most connections and relationships with these kids already. Because I'm a parent volunteer, my kids have gone when I've been on the youth gathering, but besides me, no other parents have attended. Just because when we do this blind application process, the parents who apply don't have the same qualifications that the volunteer mentors do. So that kind of helps to weed some of that out too for us.
Yeah, and I would say with my group, I concentrate on what are the dynamics of those kids that have signed up. What are their needs? I try to really objectively look at our leaders and say, for this kind of like what you guys were saying, for this gathering, we need maybe more of a motherly, kind of a kind, somebody that's going to give attention to maybe some of those kids that need a little extra grace in their lives. Sometimes we need a disciplinarian because we got some crazy kids that we're taking along. So that's part of that as a leader, looking around and just taking an honest look at the people around you. I think whenever you can have face-to-face conversations, I think, Josh, what you said, explaining to people why you're making the decisions you're making, and not responding in a text or an email. Sometimes things are misinterpreted, but try to have a face-to-face conversation and just, be forthright, be honest.
Well, I think also making it about more factors. Like our application process includes things like, are you a morning person or a night person? Like, are you willing to do small group? Can you pray? I mean, all those things are so important. Like, have they taken a big trip before? I mean, there's people who I had chaperones that were not chaperones before, but yeah, they led their family of 20 on a cross-country trip. I'm like, you're good, you're qualified. Some of those struggles. So I make it more about other factors, not just if you've gone or not. But I try to give preference if you've never gone, especially some of those parents are in the window where their kid can only go once. They might not have younger siblings. That's part of it. I want to be objective, but I also want to say this might be their only chance to go. And I really want to encourage them to have that experience with their child. And with the application, there's some of that I say, why do you want to go? Like, what are some of your passionate reasons? And I've gotten some amazing answers. And, I bring other people into that. It's not just about me. I use some of the other leaders. Some people don't know and they blindly see it and give me feedback just so we can really choose the right people for the kids too.
Yeah, I think when we talk about especially bringing adult leaders, it's such a big topic because they're really the ones that get to shepherd and spend time with, and so they're just great stuff. And one of the things I want to encourage, we did a webinar on this too, so you can go back and hear more about that kind of stuff. There's some specific questions within that. Some great advice on the chat, so keep that coming. I love that. Scott talks about first priority for adults that really they look for time that spend times with the kids and work alongside them. And I think it's for us, that's a really big thing, right? It's not just about the gathering, but it's how do we continue to build relationships for ministry for the long term. We always say this: you have the biggest impact in the 3 years between the gathering than the gathering has for 5 days. And so we think more and more, how do we set you up in a ways, because that's the biggest impact. So having people that work along that can build those relationships, really, really big. Lots of different things. Meredith has posted a couple different things, job descriptions and things you have. There was one other one, sorry, going back. I think Lori, great. I love the fact this is the first time you're coming. The other thing just to really encourage you to do is to look for people in your district or your district coordinators that have gone along and connect with them and ask them questions. So we're all here to help in whatever way we can. So great stuff.
Something to not be overlooked is the physical demands of going to the gathering.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's really important for the kids and the parents and the adult leaders to really understand how physically taxing it is. Now, that's not a bad thing, but it's just something that that people need to know. Like, you're going to be walking so much every day. You're not going to be sleeping. Are you good with that? Because some people are not. And I think it's important to just lay that out there and let them know.
Great point. Great point. I even think about morning people. Are you a morning person? Are you an evening person? And sometimes divide duties on that. Someone said that last webinar. I thought that was a great point. And one of my favorite pictures always on our social media posts is people posting their Fitbits and their Apple watches with 20,000 plus steps. It is physically grueling at times. Yeah. Good stuff. Let's move a little bit to when we start talking about planning meetings. And there's several aspects to this. And I know several of you have said this too, that it's a day where there's so many requests of our kids to be here and there in sports teams and after curricular activities and homework and all that kind of stuff. How do you start setting up and a lot of people said, hey, we do different things as far as retreat settings, as far as building teamwork and relationships. How do you go about planning information meetings for youth, community building for youth? How do you do that? And also, how do you do that in balance with knowing that not all your kids go on the youth gathering experience?
We typically have our meetings. They're 100% mandatory unless there are other extenuating circumstances. But we typically couple our meetings when the kids will already be at church. So we will do a Sunday morning before Sunday school, or we will do a Wednesday night before youth group. And it will be something that is just part of when they're already there. You know, as you just said, our kids are so busy. It's hard to add more things onto that. You know, so we will typically do a youth gathering Bible study as part of Sunday school. So whether the kids are going or they're not, we don't make a big deal of this is for the youth gathering, but it's an amazing Bible study that everyone can participate in. One year that I did the gathering, we did like an overnight, like a, what's that called? The
Lock-in?
Yeah, a lock-in. We did that. You can tell I'm not a church worker, but we did a lock-in, and that was good. And then in 2016, we didn't do a lock-in, and it all worked out. You know, for us, we do family groups, and so our adult leaders have their own family group that they stick with, and so they interact with the kids on a smaller basis as well. So we kind of do the whole gamut, the whole group, as well as the small groups.
And I think there's some sense of understanding your culture. We all have different cultures where we work. I work in a beach town in St. Pete, Florida. So things are very casual. A lot of times people don't read emails. People don't, they're out on the boat all day or they're at the beach all day. So a lot of times it's, having those face-to-face conversations or having a place, whether that's online, on a website or a social media outlet, sending them back to the same consistent location all the time for all the information. And just, trying to keep people connected, keep people involved in what you're thinking, what's going on. It's a challenge. It's not easy to try to connect with people and get things in gear. So if you're stressed out about that, it's something that even professionals, even my friends at work all across the world in different areas, it's a challenge across the board. So we just have to reckon with it.
Yeah, and I think like part as I said earlier, it's just expectations saying like we require 80% of everything. So that's our CERN events, that's our fun events, that's our informational meetings. But those first couple meetings are huge. Like you really want them to, like I set the date out long in advance. I mean, they get emails, they get texts, it's on Facebook, like just to say you need to put this, and we do that on a Sunday. So again, it's not against competing for other things, but I know even Sundays now are not necessarily out of bounds for tournaments and things like that. But I mean, with our unique thing being so close to Minneapolis, I even said with the youth gathering, though, we're staying there and you can't go on Tuesday to play baseball. You're going to go to the mass event. So really making them know this is a great opportunity, but we want to make sure you get everything out of it. And part of that is being present. If you can't be there, if you can't be at this stuff, it gets harder to build those team building things and get those kids really get to know each other. And yeah, so I mean, I think it's just being clear with expectations and saying, hey, this is, you have to prioritize sometimes because we have kids they're playing basketball, these sports year round. So
another thing, I'm sure most groups do this, but we haven't talked about is a group covenant. We have our kids sign the covenant and their parents sign it as well. It addresses a lot of behavior at the gathering, what we will tolerate and what we won't, but they're also committing to be part of the meetings and the team building and everything leading up to the gathering. So when they commit, they're committed, and the parents are part of that as well.
Yeah,
See, off of that.
Matthew, I was just going to say, we have taped some videos before and sent those out to people that could not make a meeting. And that's a really helpful tool. So Matthew, great suggestion there.
That is a great idea.
Yeah, and maybe actually one thing for the panelists, think about that. When we talk about covenant, I'd be curious how many of you that are here in the chat box, how many of you have covenants that you do with your group? And also, do you do that together, or do you produce one and then talk through it? So is it a whole group process, or is it something that the leadership team or you produce and they sign? I'd love to hear comments about that in the chat. I do want to go back to, because I think this is a great question from Jody asked this. So Jody from Stryker, Ohio, youth group with St. John's Lutheran, asked, what do you do if a student misses a mandatory meeting? Because we talk about how important that is, but what if they're not there, they can't be there? How do you handle that?
We handle it that the student has to take the initiative to reschedule a one-on-one meeting at the convenience of the adult leader. So we certainly don't make it impossible, but we don't make it super easy either to encourage them to attend the group meeting. If they can, and there are definitely legitimate reasons, then the onus is on them to reschedule that and to contact the leader one-on-one to be able to get that information.
And I think what we do, so, like if they fall, okay, they're not going to 80% of the things, it'll be a conversation just to say, hey, we need to find a time to meet. Are you really serious about this? And it's also just kind of kid by kid basis, figuring out, was this a real reason? Or, yeah, they're at a basketball camp again. Well, okay, but what is that going to mean when you're going to the youth gathering? Be able to have those hard conversations earlier rather than later. Once money's turned in and we paid a couple $100, then it gets, we need them to be on board before that. So, I think every year I've done it, I said, we have our soft group now. We usually lose a few kids, which I don't want to, but they kind of think about it and be like, nah, I'm not really that serious about this. And, I think it's just really, there's got to be grace there, but, this is a big commitment. This is a great opportunity for these kids and these adults to be a part of this.
Yeah, and sometimes you discover things. I had a girl several years ago that signed up and was going and then just sort of dropped off and was not going to meetings. Come to find out and talking to her, oh, she struggles with anxiety and this kind of social worry about being with these groups. So having those face-to-face conversations, like Anne, like you were saying, a lot of times they got to have that conversation with you or with another adult leader. So there's an opportunity to have some grace, to have some understanding, to get to know your students and your leaders a little bit better.
Yep.
Yeah, this is great responses coming back too on covenants and things like that. And Meredith said too, if you got a covenant and you're willing to share it as far as a resource sharing thing, please put that in the chat session. I think most of us start with someone else's work and we take advantage of that and add the specific things to our groups or that we encounter. I'm guessing the beach town, Cassie, is probably different than Midwest, Josh, sometimes. Colorado probably has its own covenant for different things that go on, right?
Yes, definitely.
Cassie, do you take away beach time? Can you do that?
No, we take away cell phones sometimes, and that's much worse than taking away beach time. So, yeah, we all have our different cultures, so we have to find what works for us.
Oh, it's good stuff. Lots of different thoughts and opinions on how to do some of those things. Let's talk about it like an actual meeting. And I'd love for any of the panelists, also attendees, how many typical meetings do you have? And so let me ask you guys this. Typically, how many meetings do you have during a planning process? And how do you do adult meetings versus kids meetings? Do you separate those as far as building adult teams as well? And then take me just through a common, what does your meetings look like, your times? Let's, Josh, you want to start?
Sure. One part that I really want to realize is I want the meeting to be relevant. So there has to be a spiritual aspect to it. So I've really taken a lot of the content that the gathering provides, like pre-gathering Bible studies, different topical things, because the kids are going to get a lot of that there, but you can't, it's just like our Bible stories. We hear it multiple times, you get other things out of it. So I always want to make that a component of our meetings. I want the parents and the kids to get that. We do our parent-kid meetings together, usually once a gathering. Once we get kind of within a year, it'll maybe be every other month or every 3 months, just to kind of get everyone together, make sure everyone's on the same page. Because you always have people, you have those people who have gone to gatherings in the past and kind of veterans, and then you have those people that would like a meeting every week if you could plan it, just because they've never gone. So I think putting them together also helps, because you get that continuity over someone to say, oh yeah, because I'm not going to remember everything that comes up either. So one of those other parents can say, oh yeah, that happened here and that went there. So I do the meetings together. We do, once the gathering gets close, I want to have a few meetings just with myself and the adult leaders. I want to get to know them on a social level, because we're going to be spending time together too. And it's a lot easier if we have that relationship before we go. If we have that friendship, if we can, kind of banter about, so usually we'll go to someone's house, we'll go out for appetizers. Again, culturally, maybe even have a beer depending where you're at. That's okay in Minnesota. So just to really get them to open up, so we can really, when we're in that situation that's going to be higher stress, on low sleep, with no coffee, that we can really coexist and be on the same page. And that was a big transition. My first group I took was 8 kids. It was me and one other guy. Now I take 24 kids and we have 5 or 6 chaperones. So I had to realize it's much more about me managing those adult relationships, getting to know those people and having fun with them. So I can know, like, yeah, this person I can joke with in the morning. This person I need to let have 2 coffees before we really open up that dialogue. So I make sure to plan in some time, gatherings in July, usually June and May, we're going to meet once each of those months just to get together and hang out, talk about what their concerns are, because they'll have those too, and they're probably more willing to share those with people that are going than in that big adult type meeting.
Yeah, we usually have 4 or 5 meetings, dedicated meetings, whether it's before a mission trip that our youth are taking or it's the National Youth Gathering. And usually the first one and the last one involve the parents. We always have the parents come to the last one because that's my catch-all to get all of the paperwork that's due. But yeah, in terms of the meetings, I think, Josh, what you said is great. A lot of what we do is we have to show the reason for the meeting. We share the why before the what. One of the things that I've discovered, telling our youth up front, hey, you are going to be with each other for a week. You are going to be annoyed with each other at some point. So we need to talk through that in advance so that you understand who you are. A lot of our meetings, we will do personality quizzes and we will discuss it as a group. And it's been a great tool, even for my adult leaders, to understand a little bit who they are and what sets them off, what annoys them. And as a leadership team, we're able to understand, like, yes, you are just, that kind of kid is going to grate on your personality. That's why you have several of us to be there to help. It's a great way, a really easy way, fun way to engage the kids, have them learn about themselves and learn about how do you relate with other people, especially when you're in these stressful situations, because, driving or taking a plane up, it's going to be stressful for you. If it's not stressful for you, I'm interested in you coming down to St. Pete, Florida, because I have a spot for you on my team. So just throwing it out there.
We typically do 2 meetings for logistic purposes. We do one meeting in the fall to roll it out to basically recruit, for lack of a better word. And then we do a meeting in January, which kind of buttons everything up. So and both of those involve parents. The January meeting, like you said, the last meeting is to try to get the paperwork, to sign the family group covenant, to introduce the kids to their family group leaders. And then a lot of the interaction is done with the family group leaders, our mentors, and the kids that are in their group. So we do more small group setting leading up to the gathering. Now, the meetings don't include our fundraisers, and we always do an Easter breakfast, and we do a big fundraiser in June. So that doesn't include what we do for meetings, but as far as logistics go, we just do the 2.
Excellent. Well, I love this. Nick will not let Cassie. You've got people willing to be a part of your group, but you have other leaders who are not letting them do that. Shame on you, Nick.
I'll tell you, John. Just, you can go behind his back. I won't ever tell him. This is something, they are close by to me, so we have a great relationship down here in Florida, Georgia. So Yeah, we've got a lot of, and that's one of the beautiful things about the gathering is you have so many people coming together that you get to know the other leaders.
Yeah, all of a sudden this has become like a draft room. People drafting people from other churches.
Yeah,
Took a real turn.
All right.
I love and so much of what you guys are saying. You talk about communication, how important communication is, especially face-to-face communication in this day of social media and things. And I know when we talk about covenants on how things switch from year to year, I'm assuming for all of you, part of the information time is how do we handle social media on a trip like this, and phones and phone time and all that kind of stuff is becoming more and more of an issue. Is that, do you find that?
Our group we were total outliers until the 2016 gathering. The 2016 gathering was the first gathering we allowed our kids to even bring their cell phones. And we noticed in 2013, which was my first gathering to go as an adult volunteer, that there really was a lot for the kids to do as an interactive piece with their phones. We, prior to that, thought it was just a huge distraction. And then I think 2013 was when they launched the Gathering app. And there was interactive things going on during the mass events that our kids couldn't participate in. So we kind of had to rethink that. And in 2016, we did let the kids bring their phone, which from a logistical standpoint was amazing, because think about it, in 2013, we couldn't get a hold of our kids. So logistically speaking and safety speaking, it's great for them to have their phones. But as we did a debrief with our family groups at the end of each day, the family group leaders took each kid's phones and charged them in their room so that they could get a good night's sleep and interact with their roommates and not be distracted.
Yeah, and I think that's I think a real wrestling, and that a lot of adults are thinking through those type of issues. And I know we've got some webinars coming up that are going to be geared towards those kind of things, some hot topics, social media, those kind of things. I know the gathering planning, we talk a lot about the balance between those things and when it's helpful and when it's distracting. There actually is going to be a lot of programming that's even going to kind of wrestle with them a little bit. I am in a I guess we're almost done with the webinar. I'm in a must move room with the light. So actually, I've got two more questions that I want to get to with this group, and then we'll kind of be at that time. One of the questions that I have is when, where to go? Yes. When you talk about, we've talked a lot about preparing your group and kids and adults and getting them ready for this, but we've also talked about wanting to involve the whole congregation in this experience as much as possible. What are some things that you guys do or think through to involve the greater congregation in this experience? Cassie, do we start with you?
Yeah. It's very exciting for me being a gathering planner, because my congregation and my schools, they know that I'm involved. So there's always an opportunity for me to be up front, talking about how excited I am, and, I'm going on trips to plan things. I think one of the things that we really try to do overall in our ministry is we get kids visible, we get kids in conversation with the adults in our congregation. So whether that's just as simple as on a Sunday morning, hold the door open and tell people, hey, in a couple months, I'm going to the National Youth Gathering. I'm so excited. We try to prime them for those opportunities to have conversation and to be talking about relational, face-to-face, again, having these conversations with people. And we've just seen great connections there. A lot of our adults and a lot of our grandparents, they'll follow along. Our leaders have a social media a kind of a feed that they do throughout the gathering, that they just post pictures of our youth and what's going on. So we have a lot of people from our congregation that just tune into that, and they just love seeing what our kids are doing. So again, it's relationships, get the kids visible, have them help out with things, have them connect with people, serve people coffee on Sunday morning, but have them having those personal connections.
We do in 2016, we did a We Raise fundraiser, which was online fundraiser, and we promised with each online donation that we would send people, whoever donated, a postcard from the gathering, or we would bring something back. So we had that connection. But what was most impactful, the Sunday before we left, we did a commissioning in church during the service. And then we had pictures of each of the participants, and people could take the pictures and pray for those kids as we were gone at the gathering. And that was more impactful than we ever had anticipated. We had these adults that were praying for the kids reach out to them after we got back and ask them how their experience was, and really relate to them. And so not only the prayer support was great, but it was a conversation starter. It was pretty awesome.
I'm stealing that idea, Anne.
It wasn't my idea.
Yep, I just wrote it down. I was just writing it down. Great idea, Anne. That is good. One thing we do is we have a senior living center in the area that a lot of our members are at. And we always do servant events there. That's just a cool thing to get. We do the bingo, which, that's a Minnesota thing. We love our bingo, but just any way to get our kids to be serving and helping out. Most of our fundraisers are that way too. We don't force a lot of things that aren't natural. We do sub sandwich fundraisers. We found out the biggest group that likes those are elderly, because it gives them a few lunches during the week, and it's stuff like that really, like, where can our kids serve? What can we do? We serve one of the townships in our area. We do ditch cleaning for them and get money for that. But it's just any of those opportunities we have to get those kids in front. We do the commissioning, and then we come back, we always share. I always put together a video with the kids' pictures, my pictures, all those. That already starts at usually in the airport, I'm like, okay, everyone text me all your pictures so I have all those and I can do it right away. It's kind of that instant, like, even having the kids, the first night we get there, they text or call or send their parents something so they know the parents who aren't there, or the people who really supported them. That's usually our first family night when we meet together. I say, all right, guys, now's your chance. Like, text your family. Let them know you're okay. You maybe be homesick, but just thank them. Thank them for getting you there, or those important people who helped get you to this amazing opportunity. Just to take the opportunity right away to say, hey, thanks. We appreciate it.
Yeah, that's so good. And I love that. I think this is an area that we keep on hearing more and more people of trying to figure out how to develop community, not just within your group, but the congregation. So great suggestions coming in on each of these, talking about some adopt a student, they write them a letter like you were talking about, pray for them, prayer partners, some with financial aspects to that. Jessica is talking about in a rural community. They have many churches that kind of come together and do an adopt a kid in 2016 that worked really well for them, for those attending services. Also, Rhonda was talking about that they do a send-off service and they welcome back people to really celebrate and show kind of what it was like, share some of the songs and skits and different things, and have a big thank you meal of making sure that they include bringing and connecting experience with their support, which is fantastic. So. Dana asked this, Anne, if you've got an example of the prayer cards you can share with us. If you got one of those, you can let us know, and we can post that as a resource too.
Sure.
So that would be great.
We basically, it wasn't even like a prayer card. It was basically just a photo of each kid with their name on the back, and they could take the photo and pray for them. So it really wasn't much more than a little run to Walgreens to get the pictures printed.
Oh, sorry. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry. My iPad just died. So one last question as we wrap this up. Someone was asking this, and I thought it was a really good way to kind of think about this. And Anne, I want to start with you on this, because once again, over 80% of our planners and adult leaders are volunteers, and so they don't have 7 days a week to think about this. What's your best piece of advice for our volunteer leaders taking a group in planning a 1-year kind of plan, knowing that they don't have all day to think about that?
Gosh, where do I even start? I think my biggest piece of advice is to trust the process. surround yourself with people who can do things that you're not good at. And as a volunteer, I do rely on our church staff to help me with certain parts of the planning. So, I think if you're a volunteer, don't feel like the whole responsibility is on you. I reach out constantly, asking questions, offering suggestions. I feel like as a volunteer, I've taken a lot of work off the shoulders of our church staff, but also, everyone is committed to making this a successful event. My other biggest piece of advice is don't stress. We were talking before the webinar started, if you're working with youth, you have to learn to do things on the fly. And as much planning as you do, I mean, clearly you want, people to be safe and you want them to get there and, not miss their flight and everything. But as far as the day-to-day stuff goes, you just got to let the Holy Spirit work through our kids and work through our adults and let the process take care of itself.
I would say just that preparation piece, because ultimately you want to enjoy it and you want the kids enjoying it because it is an awesome opportunity and experience. So, I mean, that was not who I was when I started the youth gathering. I said 8 kids the first time I went, and I was not a big organized prep person. I realized how important that was. Now, even if you don't have time, there's certain things that have worked great. Set expectations for the kids. One's curfew. When can you use your cell phone? When can't you? Kind of to set those rules that everyone can agree on. So when you go there, as I said, when everyone's stressed, that you're going to have something to go back to say, no, we already talked about this. Like, these are the expectations. And that I just noticed really allows you to enjoy it and have fun because everyone knows what the rules are already. I mean, that was part of our boot camp is the kids have to be able to recite our rules. Now, as I said, people who know me personally would laugh at that, being like, what, Josh is not about rules. But up front, I am, just because I want the kids to know these are the boundaries. Kids like to have boundaries, and I've seen that they really thrive during that. During the day, how many speakers do we need to go to? Okay, you need to go to 2 at least. Then sure, you can go play basketball with someone from Alaska and Hawaii. That's cool. You don't get to do that normally. So I've just noticed, set those expectations and then give those to your adult leaders, and then they can go back through each night and say, all right, this is what we're doing. Because then when you're there, you get to enjoy it. Is there times for your adults to have a night where they're not on duty? You have time with your family group, then maybe they can go sleep by 11:30, and that they like that. So that's why I've just kind of realized that preparation that is not really who I was when I started doing this job, and I've realized there's so much that comes from that helps. So then when you get there, you really can enjoy it, because that's ultimately you want to do as an adult leader and as a kid. You want to have this be a great experience.
Yeah, and I would say there is so much great information on the National Youth Gathering website. Yeah. So many things. That's my go-to place to go for any piece of information. Very talented people putting that together. But I think a lot of it is just kind of what you guys said, one day at a time, one step at a time. Trust that the Holy Spirit is at work. Whether I've taken groups on trips, over 100, taking groups of 4. Your group matters, and what you're doing as a volunteer, as a leader, you are making an eternal impact that, you may never know this side of heaven. You may never know what impact you're making, but you are important. You are valuable. The Holy Spirit is working through you. So trust that even in those moments when you just want to pull your hair out, when things are not lining up, when you've got 4 kids that haven't turned in their paperwork, God is still in control. So, be flexible. Understand your role in it too, but God is at work.
Love that. Excellent advice. And I'll just lean on what Scott said. I thought this great words here too. Is really, if you're a first time person and this is the first or second time that you've gone, really to lean on a mentor, someone who's gone before. Part of the reason we do these webinars is to bring people that have done it, and basically we've made mistakes and we've learned from those. So I'd encourage you really to lean on your district coordinator, to find someone from a neighboring congregation who's done this several times, and to take them out to lunch every quarter or so and just kind of pick their brains and to use that. If you're looking or need someone, contact our youth ministry office. We will find someone for you that's been there and done that. We want to be a resource for that. Networking is so big. And Josh, Cassie, and Ann, I just want to thank you for your time today and for sharing your experiences and what you've learned and how you plan. We are so grateful for you and your service to the church. And I know you have a heart for adult leaders. That's part of why you're here and doing this. And so if I can ask you to end in prayer for all of our adult leaders and the opportunity and task in front of them, if you could do that, that would be great. And Cassie, can you start us?
Let's go ahead and pray. Heavenly Father, we thank you for this opportunity, Lord, to come together, to be a community of people that are like-minded, people that are passionate about you, about your children. We just thank you for this chance to be together and to learn from each other. God, I just pray for all of those who are preparing even now for the National Youth Gathering, that you would just bless their path, that your hand would be guiding over everything that they are doing, every decision that they're making. And Lord, I just pray that you are close to those adult leaders, especially, that you encourage them, that you equip them, that you empower them, that they just see your presence, that they can serve you with joy, and that you just give them wisdom as they consider planning, as they prepare for what is ahead of them. Give them patience, give them encouragement, give them wisdom to see you in all that they do.
Lord, I just ask that you bless all of these adults. Not only with the planning, but open all of our hearts to the work of the Holy Spirit, and that we can see Jesus through the kids that we're bringing, and that we can take as much or more away from going to the gathering than our kids do. Bless all of us as we embark on this journey.
And Lord, throughout just this next 12 months, year, and the time after the gathering, help us remember, God, that you've been preparing us for this. You put these right people in the right places to have this amazing impact with these kids. And just give everyone the confidence, just give everyone the relief from the anxiety and the stress, and be with us in those stressful moments that will happen during the planning process and during this whole thing, God. But just help us remember you're there. You're with us. You're going to be there with us in Minneapolis. You're going to be with us the whole time through and the whole time after, God. And just be with all these amazing leaders. Thank you for all they do during the week and their jobs, the regular quote unquote jobs they do, but also thank you for the amazing kingdom work they're doing with all these kids, bringing them towards Minneapolis in just 1 year. So thank you, God, for giving us the opportunity to just be together and preparing us all for this moment. It's in your son's name that we pray.
Amen.
Amen. Well, thanks everybody. We are around 13 months away from Real Present God, and we are excited and preparing, getting ready. And like I said, we're going to continue to pray for you as adult leaders. And if there's anything that we can do to help, go to the website and check out social media. The Adult Leader page on Facebook is a great place to go. And if there's anything we do, just let us know. If not, we will see you next month.